Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming here. My name is Frank Klesitz. I'm the host of Keeping It Real, where you're going to hear from Anna Krueger today, who worked on a top performing real estate team for years, doing internet lead conversion of, calling the people that save their searches on your website or registered to find out what their home is worth, most likely. When people put that information into a web form, you get this leads, internet lead, and maybe other leads too, like from realtor.com or Zillow, and whether they were generated from Facebook or pay-per-click on Google or Bing, right? Point is that someone online, some stranger, has put their name into a form. Maybe not necessarily to request to speak to you. Maybe they put their name in for some other reason, which is important. Right. And now you reach out, let the games begin. And the typical conversion rates in the industry are maybe 2 to 3 out of every 100. Anna knows how to get that up by proactively following up correctly, exactly what to say to convert while you're here, to convert more of those internet leads. We all know what we're talking about, to appointments of people who actually want to buy or sell a home. So I'm really excited to interview Anna today. We're going to go for about 30, 45 minutes. But before we get you on here, Anna, I want to let you know that you can go to keepingitreal.com. So keepingitreal.com, and you'll see all the shows that we've done for years in the past of interviewing top agents around the country of what they're doing to actually sell houses and, make money. And awesome. There's nothing here. Go ahead.
I just said awesome resource. People should be checking that out.
Yeah. I mean, and what's cool is you can go back there and watch all the different patterns. And, it's not really necessarily watching one interview. It's watching all of them and finding the principles and where you'll find truth of doing all this. All right. You can also subscribe to the iTunes on iTunes, Keep Your Own iTunes. You can listen to these on iTunes, put them up there. And also backing behind this is Real Geeks, wonderful CRM. Go check them out, realgeeks.com. Get yourself a demo. All right. Because they provide the websites and the lead generation that we're going to talk about today for the follow-up. But you go check out the Real Geeks Facebook page and the Facebook mastermind group. We also post the replays there. So with that, that's all you're going to hear about anything to buy. The rest of this is going to be entirely what do you have to do to convert more internet leads to appointments? So let's get started. So here's the premise. Let's just start right from the beginning. Someone has ended up on the agent's website and they've put their information in that they want to know what their home is worth. Let's talk seller leads first. All right. This is probably a homeowner that wants to know what their home is worth. So they put their address in. And after they put their address in, they probably ended up putting their phone number and email address and other information in to find out what their home is worth. And they got some report. And now that lead went to the viewer here who's watching this interview with you. Walk me through step by step what they need to do to make contact, identify needs, and bring that to an appointment, Anna. What do we got to do?
Great question. So first of all, it's all in how you open the call. So let's talk real quick about how you open the call with a lead, because a lot of times people won't stay on the phone with you. Or I find with internet leads, they'll submit their info not knowing someone is going to call them. And so they'll say something like, oh, I'm really busy. Can you just call me later? Or, oh, could you just email me some of that information? And what they're really wanting to do is just get off the phone with you. So what you want to do if someone says, I'm busy, call me later, or can you email me? There's a 3-step process I'd ask everyone to write down. The first thing you want to do when they say, I'm busy, just email me. And then we'll jump into how do you set the appointment in just a moment. But you got to keep them on the phone first, right? So the first thing you want to do is say, I'm glad you told me, because they're not expecting you to express gratitude that they said, I'm busy. So it's a pattern interrupt. It makes you a little more interesting to talk to. So the first thing you're going to do is say, I'm really glad you told me. Then you're going to say, number 2, when is better? So number 1, glad you told me. Number 2, when is better? And then the third thing you want to do is say, hey, in 30 seconds or less, what has you thinking about moving? And the idea here, Frank, it's kind of like when you're at, a party at church, whatever, you're trying to walk out the door and someone's like, oh, hey, Frank, just real quick, how's work going? Or how's the family? You're on this mission to get going. And suddenly, because they've asked about you, we take time and we, take an extra 2 minutes and chat. So what we're wanting to do is get the person that when we call off this home valuation request and they're like, oh, I'm busy, can you just call me later? We're going to keep them on the phone by acknowledging it. Hey, I'm glad you told me. When is better? And then, hey, just in 30 seconds or less, what has you thinking about moving? And what we find is they'll usually give you something, whether it be, I was thinking of downsizing, or I was thinking about pulling equity, whatever it might be. And then that gives you something to ask about. So, Frank, what had you thinking about downsizing? And the rule here is if they stay on the phone with you, just keep going. Don't interrupt the fact that they're talking to you now to say, oh, I remember you said you were busy. They picked up the phone, they probably have time. They're just giving you a line. So if they stay on the phone with you, once you start asking questions, then you stay on the phone with them. And if they say, well, I wanted to downsize, but like I said, I have to go, you at least have some information to start the next phone call. So I might call Frank tomorrow. He blew me off today. I'll call him tomorrow. Hey, Frank, I know you said you were thinking of downsizing. And I'm immediately a more interesting person to talk to because of that. So step one is you just have to keep these people on the phone. And a lot of them do try to brush you off because they weren't expecting that phone call. So that's really step one.
Yeah, because remember, they did not put their information to speak with an agent. They put their information to find what their home is worth.
Right.
And part of that, probably just out of, people fill out the phone number of the form just because you asked.
Right.
Right. And now you're calling.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of them aren't expecting that call. So you have to engage them to want to talk to you. Where a lot of people fail with this is they'll go right into all the logical stuff and they'll answer all their questions. And it's not that we don't want to do that, but we don't want to do that yet. The first thing you want to do is find out, why does this person want to move? What was the reason they submitted their information? Because that's the leverage to keep them moving forward. It builds rapport because you care about their story. So really the main thing is to keep them on the phone, ask them about their motivation. And if they keep talking, you keep talking.
And then if they were even interested in selling in the first place, most may not be. They just want to know what their home is worth.
Yeah. Which in that case, so I firmly believe always assume they want to move, because if they don't want to move, they'll tell you. Right. But if I start the call with a yes or no question, did you want to move? Or, were you just looking for the value? It makes it really easy to shut down the conversation. So I've just found if I assume they want to move, they'll say, oh, actually, I wasn't looking to move. I just wanted to know the value.
Yeah.
And then I can, okay, what makes you want to know the value of your house?
But let's even step back to that question, because we made a huge assumption. They answered the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real, a very huge assumption. I mean, this lead comes in. I would assume it goes into some type of CRM or some type of way of tracking for the follow-up. But with that, let's just assume you're reaching out. How do you maximize your chances that they actually answer the phone? What do you do to maximize that?
Yeah, it's a really excellent question. So Harvard actually studied this in 2012. And I probably, like many of you, thought that's really old data. So we reached out and found they went to restudy this, and it was the same data. So they didn't complete the second study recently because it was the same. So what they found is if you call a new lead 6 times in 6 days, once per day for 6 days, you have a 90% chance of them picking up the phone or calling you back. So what you want, in most agents, by the way, they found only call maybe twice. So if you don't even have to be that great on the phone. If you're just tenacious and you keep calling the leads and do it the 6 times in 6 days, if it's a legit number, they'll likely either pick up or call you back by that 6th day, 90% of the time. And then part of that also is using a text message, shooting them an email. The best email is a blank email, and the subject line simply says, I just left you a voicemail. Yeah. That's it. That one gets a ton of callbacks.
Say that again. Say what you just said. Say what you said just there again about the voicemail and what to say.
Okay. So there's a whole way to leave a voicemail, which I haven't talked about yet, but the email that you're going to send, it's going to be a blank email, and your subject line is simply going to say, I just left you a voicemail. That's it. And just this week, we had a coaching client say, that is working. I'm getting a lot more callbacks, or at least they're responding to the email because of that. But
so it has the email signature, and it just says, I just left you a voicemail, and that's the email you send.
That's it. Yep. Nothing else. Yeah, because then it makes them curious to listen to the voicemail.
And then the voicemail says what?
Yeah, so there's a 5 voicemail strategy. So I'll walk you through that real quick. The first call you make, you don't leave a voicemail, because some people are going to call you simply because they're thinking, who just called me? I'm not that person, but there are some people that will call back numbers that they don't know because they're curious. So that first call, no voicemail. The second call on out, though, you'll leave a voicemail. And the structure is, and all of you will customize this, but the structure is, you give them some benefit about your team, something you probably would say in a listing appointment. So for example, I might say, our team earns 3.5% more of list price for our clients than other agents in the area. So I might put that on my voicemail. Then I'm going to give them a specific time to call me back by. So I might say, hey, Frank, it's Anna from the Haro Group. Thank you so much for reaching out to us on our website. We earn 3.5% more list price than other agents in the area. Call me today by 5 so I can help you know how we can earn you more money. So there's a value and then a very specific time to call me back. Most voicemails are just, hey, it's me, call me back. And then you do that every single voicemail. And honestly, it's kind of obnoxious. So you want a different value add every time you call this person with a specific time to call you back by. They might not call you by that time, but simply giving them a deadline increases the chance that they will call you back. And so when you do the 6 calls in 6 days, you start leaving voicemails on that second call on out. That's that magic formula to get a 90% pickup or callback ratio.
Anna, this is gold. And how many thousands of follow-up calls have you done?
Oh my gosh. I calculated this maybe 6 months ago, and I don't have number of calls, but I have 27,500 hours of lead gen experience since 2006. And I was doing it kind of like low estimate. Yeah, it works.
This is great. Okay.
So a lot of people say voicemails don't work. And then I'll say, well, raise your hand if you've had a training on voicemails. And very rarely will someone raise their hand. And so I think that's why people think it doesn't work. It totally works.
If you have questions, please leave it in the YouTube chat. If you're watching live, I'm monitoring it. Good to see you guys. All right. So lead comes in, goes into CRM, 6 attempts in 6 days. Every attempt is a phone call. You don't leave a voicemail on the first one, and you gave us the principles for leaving the remainder of the voicemails with the remainder 5. You also email them every time when you call and they don't answer with that simple just subject line, nothing else in the email. Yeah. What about texting?
Yeah, you can do the same thing. So the first text could simply be just left you a voicemail. So I actually, when you leave that first voicemail, I would text and email you, and both would say just left you a voicemail, and that's it.
Okay.
From that point forward, you can actually model your emails a lot off of the voicemail. So maybe your second email would say, hey, we've helped, 102 families so far this year. We would love to help you with all of that experience behind us. Give me a call back today. I'd love to find out what has you thinking about moving, something like that. You keep it motivation focused.
Got it. And I noticed on the very first phone call, you pinned them down for 30 seconds, finding the motivation, which is the most important thing for any lead, as fast as possible. And then you remind them of the motivation every time when you follow up.
Yes. Yeah. Because that's the whole thing. I know if any of you have ever taken the class Bold, it's a real estate class offered by Keller Williams. Anyone can take it though. They have these laws in there that they talk about. And one of them is emotion or logic makes people think, but emotion makes people act. So all of us can probably think back to Christmas. There was probably some gift we bought that was totally illogical. It cost too much money, but we knew that the person would love it. That emotion side of us made us, all right, I'm going to buy this overly expensive thing because they're going to love it. So it's that idea that if we know someone's emotional reason why they're moving, that's going to make them act way more than just the logical stuff. And most realtors call and talk logic. When do you want to be there? How much do you want? Who are the decision makers? But not a lot of realtors take time to really dive deep into the person's motivation. So it creates this tie to you of like, wow, no one else cared to ask me why I wanted to move. They just seemed like they wanted my business. But Frank here, he knows me. He knows why I want to do this. Yeah. And then if you go to cancel, the call is, hey, Frank, it's Anna. I know we were going to meet today, and your personal goal is to downsize so you can buy an RV to travel. Call me back today. I want to help you do that. So the whole conversation is around your motivation, not the team, not me. It's about you, the client, the whole time.
Video. Any video in this process? We talked about phone call. We talked about voicemail. We talked about email. We talked about text. Yeah. What about video?
Yeah, I think video is great. So I know people that have systems where they'll send a video email. So it's an email, but it's got, their face in there. And especially when it can be personal, where it's, hey, Frank.
Where you mention their name and it's a one-to-one type email.
Right. So they know this isn't just some email that they mass sent to everyone, which by the way, those work too, but it makes it so much more personal when they can see your face. They can, they hear their name. They know this isn't just an email that went to everyone.
Yeah.
So that works as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll throw out something we use. We use a service called Loom, Loom. There's also
Yeah.
BombBomb out in the space,
Yeah.
but there's also Dub, I think I've heard of.
Cool.
But these are very little plugins you can put into your email that allow you to basically hold a button down, record a video for that specific person, let it up, and it goes right into the email to send to that individual, and it creates a little more of that connection.
Yeah. I've had that. I've had coaching clients send that to me. They'll send me a thing after a call and they're like, hey, whatever about the call today. And I mean, it fills my bucket, and they're not even like reaching out to me to be, I'm their coach. They're not reaching out to me to offer a service. And I love getting them. It's just really personal. So yeah. I'm familiar with BombBomb for that. And I'm sure those other ones are great as well.
I'll throw one more in there. I've heard teams, they'll buy iPhones because it's just easier to do it this way, an iPhone for their follow-up. And they'll just record videos and send an iMessage with
that's a
video directly in the phone.
That is a great idea.
So in addition to that, if they opt in on the website, you maybe have some retargeting set up. So when that person's going to Facebook or going to YouTube, your videos are popping up that way. So when you add up, Anna,
all of that,
lead comes in, goes into CRM, calls, voicemails, texts, emails, throw in some video, maybe some retargeting.
Yeah.
Let alone they're probably getting drips that come from the actual CRM of their home value.
Right.
You're probably going to get them on the phone.
Probably. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's what that study showed.
Yeah.
I mean, 90% of the time they'll get back to you.
What if they don't? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I want to know. I really want to know. What do you do after the tens of thousands of follow-up calls? If they don't answer in 6 days, what happens?
Yeah. So then they move more to an every 2 week reach out, but I make sure they're on some sort of marketing, which I know Frank is where, like, I love viral marketing. That's where
some long-term 36 touch program.
Right. And I still make sure they get calls, but I now lean more on the marketing, because this is my rationale. Unless they were on vacation or maybe out, sick or some weird circumstance, if they didn't call me back after 6 times in 6 days, this isn't as hot as other leads that might be coming in. It's a cooler lead potentially. So we're going to still market to them. We're still going to call them, but we're not going to call them as often, because if I highlight this person and make it a priority, I might miss someone else who's
correct
coming in. But the thing is, they're still seeing it. And that's what I love about email marketing and things like that. We'll get calls from people. I used to get calls from people that would say, you might not remember me, like 6 months ago, I reached out and you left me a bunch of voicemails. I didn't call you back, but I'm ready now. And you're the person I want to work with. And it's great when you get those calls. And so it's encouraging to remember they might not be calling you back, but they're seeing it. They're seeing the emails. They're seeing all that marketing. Yeah. So anyway, if they don't call back after 6 days, I usually call every 2 weeks for a period of time. And then eventually it'll shift to once a quarter, but never less than once a quarter. Because if you've done inside sales, or if you're an agent, you've done any sort of lead gen, really in any industry, you know that usually you get those leads and you're like, oh my gosh, I called this person 30 times. Today they picked up the phone and I just set an appointment. It happens to all of us that are doing this type of work. So it's still a lead.
I'll add something here. Just if you think 6 is a lot, 6 times every day, once a day this feels like this is overwhelming and inappropriate. No. The large mortgage companies, there's a very large mortgage company, huge, that buys leads from Lending Tree. And these are people that have, I want a mortgage, and here's like literally all my personal contact information. Please have someone call me about a mortgage.
Right.
They call 50 times in the first 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Their algorithms with their millions and millions and millions of calls, they call 5 times a day for 10 days.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. So this suddenly does not seem like so much.
No.
Well, and I'll tell you,
the big companies are playing the game at a high level on lead follow-up. And those are like, I want to talk to a lender leads.
Yeah. I mean, and
which you think would require maybe a little less. Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you, for those of you listening that might have that hesitation about 6 calls in 6 days, I'm the same. I was a high school teacher and I was like, I would never do sales. Now look at me, right? But I totally had this talk in my head about, oh my gosh, that's so much. It's so salesy. It's not. And you might have to do it to prove it to yourself. But in doing it, I would learn from feedback. People would pick up the phone and there would be people that would say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I haven't called you back. It's been really busy. And they're almost apologizing that they haven't called me back. People were like, thank you for keeping up with me. I've had a busy week. Thanks for staying in touch. And yeah, you have people that say, remove me from your list, and that's going to happen no matter how you call someone. That's just part of this job. That's part of what's going to happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I also want to talk about, let's say you generate 100 leads. Let's say 100 leads come in for a home value request, which I don't know what those run, maybe, $10 a lead, let's say.
Yeah.
And you spend $1,000 on 100 leads. And one of those would probably turn into a sale. So spending $1,000 to get commission check in most markets is a reasonable cost per sale. All right. But you said take 6 times to kind of get a hold of them. It's average it out maybe 5 times. That's 500 follow-up calls, emails, texts, conversations to get to that sale. Right. Yeah. How does one go about time blocking lead follow-up? I want to ask you this question because these leads are coming 24 hours a day for the most part, right? Yeah. This time, that time here. And we know that speed to lead is important. We didn't cover that, but real quick, let me ask you that question.
Yeah.
And it's a catch-22. How fast should you call the lead when it comes in?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't perfect at it. Yeah. But what I knew, because sometimes you're on the phone or you're out to lunch, but what I'll tell you is in the same Harvard study, they found a 400% difference if you call them 5 minutes to 10 minutes. So that is a shocking percentage. So if you call lead within 5 minutes versus 10 minutes, just 5 minutes later, to me, 10 minutes is still pretty fast. You are
it's down to 5
less likely to have them pick up the phone. So speed to lead is important. And this is why it all depends. Some people are watching this and they're single agents. Some people are on a large team. Some people are inside sales agents. And that is why people will build a team. They have more leads than they personally can call. I think each person just has to do a check of, am I being honest with myself about how I'm managing my time? I find a lot of people want to have other people call their leads. And it's like, well, if you actually blocked this in the morning, and usually that looks like 8 to 11 or maybe 9 to 12 if you're a single agent. So 3 hours, 8 to 11, 9 to 12, somewhere in there. If you're actually working during that time, you're talking to about 20 people, getting 20 pickups. I would actually say you're doing a pretty good job with that. And if you still have more leads than you can handle, it might be time to find some help.
And that's kind of the catch-22 of an individual agent is, you want to call these leads as quickly as possible. They're coming all times a day, and it's very hard to run a good business doing that, let alone have a life. So now what you do is you block 3 hours a day, but now it may take 24 hours to follow up. A little tip for those of you generating online leads. If you are in that situation where it is just you, it may be possible to only run the ads during those times. So if you're going to be available for calls from like 8 to 12, see if the Facebook ads, the pay-per-click ads only run from 8 to 12. And that's where you push it really hard.
Hey,
so I've had some people do that.
I said, Mark, hey, Frank, you should maybe do some marketing or something. Like, you seem like you know a lot about marketing.
I've been doing the Keeping It Real for about 6 years and picked up some kind of cool things to add in the recording. But yeah. Well, let's break down again. Let's go through what we've learned so far. Lead comes in. We're using a home value lead. Lead comes in, goes into like a professional CRM, so you can manage all the follow-up actions, not just a Post-it note or your email inbox. Right? Ideally, you call it as fast as possible. And you're going to call them every day for 6 days. Yep. You're not going to leave a message the first time, but you'll leave messages the following times. And I'll ask you a follow-up question here because there was a good question in the interview from Vina here about more voicemail script information, which we'll ask later. Leave a voicemail. We talked about the text. We talked about email and how to use it in the subject line. We also said, feel free to add in some one-to-one video where you mention their specific name.
Right.
If they don't answer in 6 days, you call them every 2 weeks, then every quarter.
Yeah.
But if they also don't answer in 6 days, you also have a marketing plan of some type of 36 touch going out. All right. Yeah. You can check out Viral Marketing for that. That's my company. All right. Yes. And what else? And then if you're an individual agent, time blocking time to follow up with these leads, even though it may take you 24 hours to get back, because you'll be better off you just time block and do it versus just kind of running around randomly. Or if you are going to time block, ask them, maybe only run my ads during that time block time. Maybe not, might be able to help kind of, put those in. Yeah. Cause I do know some teams, they may have an ISA, but they'll only run the leads when the ISA is on staff.
Yeah.
For 8 hours a day.
And the thing is, a lot of people, like if I'm working with a team, sometimes the reason they bring me in is they're like, we have really bad leads, or maybe it's bad conversion. We don't know. We kind of think we don't have great leads. And then it turns out after they get this down and they're following the system we just described, they're like, wow, these are great leads. we just weren't working them
Weren't
appropriately.
following them correctly. Now I want to ask you
Great.
this because I know we have limited time.
Okay.
Closing for the appointment, because we're talking about converting leads to appointments. A lead comes in, we know how to follow up, we've made contact, we've identified motivation.
Yeah.
But now you're a stranger. They didn't opt in to see you. You have a conversation with them now. How do you get the appointment? Take me to the appointment now.
Yeah, so I'll walk through that pretty quickly. So the first, everybody write this down. There are 4 parts of a conversation. The first part is get the motivation. What has you thinking about this? What's that going to do for you? What's the impact for you? Once you have that motivation, there's a transition statement, and it sounds something like, great, Frank, let's see what we need to do to make that happen. I have some questions for you to see, like put together a game plan for you. And now you're shifting into part 2 of the conversation, which is pre-qualification. And when I say pre-qual, I just mean all the logical stuff. I don't mean lender pre-qual. I mean, who are the decision makers? How much do you owe in your house? Like all of the questions that pretty much every realtor knows to ask. We don't really need to train on that part. So part 1's motivation. Part 2, you do all of the logistical stuff. Then if it makes sense, if this person actually is a good lead, it makes sense to move forward with them, they're wanting to do something soon. The third part of the conversation is actually the words, your next step is. So you're going to give them a next step. And if they're ready, the next step is to meet with you. So it's going to sound like, hey, Frank, what makes you want to move? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Let's see what we need to do to make that happen. I have some questions for you. I pre-qualify you. And then I say, okay, great. Honestly, Frank, the next step is to meet with me. That's an assumptive close. It's not, do you want to meet with me? It's just, okay, well, the next step is to meet with me. And then the fourth part of that conversation is to pick the time. So Frank, your next step is to meet with me. Let me put you on hold, check the calendar and see what I have available here in the next 24 to 48 hours. And then I would offer you some times and we would get that in the calendar. The biggest thing that I hear is people will be like, I was just on the website looking this up.
Yeah, whoa, what's going on?
And I like to tell them, here's the deal. You're just meeting with me to make a game plan. We're not listing your house tomorrow. We're meeting to decide if when you list your house, if I'm the person you want to help you do that. And we're just putting together a game plan. I'm not expecting you to list your house tomorrow. It's just a meeting to see if we want to work together. And usually they're like, okay, I feel better. So that's the biggest thing I find is people have this like, I was just on the website looking and now I might meet you. And you just want to emphasize we're making a game plan. And you don't want to set that with just anyone. Make sure you've qualified them and it makes sense to meet this person. But you do want to ease their mind. It's just a meeting. It's just a meeting. That's all it is.
Quick question. And for time, we won't go too much more deeper on that. Do you have anyone setting those appointments on Zoom versus going out to the home for sellers?
Yes.
Do you see more of that trend happening?
I do. In fact,
especially when it's just a meeting, you're driving all the way out there, we don't list. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Tell me about people setting Zoom meetings as opposed to driving out of the house.
Yeah. So I think that's one great thing that came out of 2020 was people quickly realized they can do a lot more with tech than they thought they could. So you set it up the same way you would if you were going to their house, but you can do it through Zoom. And I like to just add in there, if you're the lead, I might say, hey, Frank, here's a great thing with technology is it can be like we're sitting across the table from each other, knee to knee, talking to each other. But you can do it from your house and I can do it from the office. We can go through everything we would go through if we were actually together, but save drive time and make it just a lot easier for you. And that's usually fine. You do want to make sure that they have Zoom. So you can have like a template email where you say like, log in 15 minutes early. Here's some instructions. So you'll want to craft an email like that. And then one step I do that I don't do for in-person appointments is I'll say, Frank, it would be super easy to forget about this appointment because you're at home and you don't have to get in the car and drive somewhere. So what can you do to remind yourself of our 2:45 appointment? And usually they say, I could probably put a reminder on my phone. And that's because I had a lot more no-shows with Zoom appointments and kind of find out just saying, how will you remember the appointment? That fixed it. So that would be one extra step I recommend.
Got it. This is great.
Yay.
So you have to go when?
What's that?
How much more time do I have with you?
I've got about 4 minutes. Okay.
Go through the voicemail scripts one more time. Give me a 4-minute rundown of how to do an effective voicemail for the audience.
Okay. This is a whole hour training, so I will do my best to do
Is it? Wow.
It's an hour training, yeah.
Wow.
Um,
And Anna, hold on. It's okay to tell people where they can get that. Where can they get the training from you?
The training. Okay. The training, we have one launching February 2nd. Thank you, Frank. It's if you go to masteringinsidesales.com, we give you 19 language patterns. I've given you a few of them today. Trackers, all kinds of systems, and it's for anyone that does sales. So the class is maybe 50% buyer listing agents, and then maybe 50% inside sales agents. It's basically if you talk to humans on the phone and you want them to become a client, the class will help you. So masteringinsidesales.com is where you can find that. And we spend a whole hour just on voicemails because it's called Mastering Inside Sales. We want you to be good at it. But the quick rundown of it is your first voicemail, you want to have a little mystery to it because, again, that will appeal to some people. So it might be, hey, Frank, I saw you were on our website last night. Give me a call back today by 5. I'd love to help you. My number is blah, 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 blah. And say your name, where you're from. And it's general enough that will appeal to some personality types of like, oh, I'm curious. What is this? So that's your first voicemail. Then voicemails 2, 3, and 4, you leave a value add. So again, that might sound something like, and all of you will have to customize this, but that might sound something like, hey, Frank, it's Anna from the Horror Group, Keller Williams. Hey, I want to let you know that our team sells homes 2 times faster than other agents in the area. Call me back today by 5 so I can explain how we can save you time on market. My number is. So the idea is I've given you like a little tiny snippet about our team, enough to intrigue you, but we're not having a listening appointment on voicemail. And then I gave you a specific time to call me back. Third voicemail, I like to switch up where I put my name because some people don't listen to voicemails until like all in one day. So if every voicemail starts, hey, it's Anna. Hey, it's Anna. They'll just start deleting. So the third voicemail, I like to switch it up and put my name at the end. So this one might sound something like, hey, Frank, I want to let you know that we have a 5-star review on Google. Call me back today by 5 so we can put that awesome customer service to work for you and give you a great real estate experience. Call me by 5. Oh, by the way, this is Anna from the Horror Group, Keller Williams. Here's my number. So that would be voicemail 3. Voicemail 4 is a similar thing. You just pick a different value add. So this time I might say, hey, Frank, it's Anna from the Horror Group, Keller Williams. Hey, I want to let you know, we just helped one of our clients win a multiple offer against 8 people yesterday. Call me back today by 4 o'clock so I can help you win in today's market. My number is blah, blah, blah. So we're up to the 4th voicemail now. The first one was a little general. 2, 3, and 4 had a value add. Voicemail 5, and this one gets a lot of callbacks. I'm basically going to say, call me back no matter what, dude, but I'm going to say it nicely. And I'm going to say, hey, Frank, it's Anna from the Horror Group. I've left you a lot of voicemails this week. So I don't know if you're super busy or just not interested. Would you let me know either way? I want to help you and I don't want to pester you. So call me back today by 5. Here's my number. And that one gets a lot of callbacks, usually from interested people. And that's when they're saying like, oh, I'm sorry, I've just been so busy. And sometimes you get the people that say, take me off your list, which is fine. Like we have a lot of leads. Like I want to clean this up. So that's the 5 voicemail strategy.
Anna, thank you so much. That was gold.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on here.
Get out of here. I know you have a hard stop for your next training that you're doing. I appreciate you making some time for us at Keeping It Real. I'll wrap it up. You can hop on off. I want to thank all of you for watching. Thank you, Anna. I want to thank you all for watching. You'll have the replay here, right here on the YouTube channel. We'll also get a nice write-up made and get posted on keepingitreal.com. I want to thank you so much for attending. We'll have more of these here in the future in 2022. And feel free to leave a comment and ask a question, and we'll get back to it.